Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Harry Fling Wrestling. I'm your host, Harry Fling, and yes, it's back, folks. Superstar Spotlight. We've got another female we're going to cover today, and that is Tori. No, not Tori Wilson, the famous 2003-2004 Playboy model, longtime SmackDown diva. No, I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about Terry Polk, who went just by the first name Tori as a stage name in WWF between 1998 to 2001, I believe it was. This is her in 2000 when she was with DX. This is an 8x10. Thank you, Google Images, for letting me upload it hereby. So this Tori's a completely different person altogether, needless to say. Born on August the 20th of 1964, so she's 62 years old, 62 years old in Portland, Oregon, where she still resides today. And she was billed from there too, as I've said before, where wrestlers come from in their gimmick may be different from where they hail from in real life. So take that with a grain of salt. So Tori, not much is known about her early life other than she was born in Portland, Oregon, and her professional wrestling career started in 1988. She was trained by Roddy Piper and Brad Rangans. I had no idea that Roddy Piper was actually one of her trainers. She didn't go on to have a massive, successful career, for one thing, due to various circumstances, but it just didn't seem like, she'd be trained by somebody so legendary. And Brad Rangans is somebody popular in the Pacific Northwest wrestling territory, or was in the territory days. I think he's still alive, but he's long since retired, so you don't hear that name anymore. Tori started, Terry Polk is her real name. Terry started her career in Portland for Pacific Northwest Wrestling. I think that's where she met Brad and Roddy. She won many championships on the independent circuit in the Pacific Northwest. There's so many championships, but you can look them up on her Wikipedia page. Sadly, that didn't translate to her career in the World Wrestling Federation, as she never captured the Women's Championship, which I will get into. But one thing about Tori, when she first came to WWF, she was somebody that had a good look, very credible gimmick with the whole body painting aesthetic. If you remember WrestleMania 15, her match against Sable, it had looked like somebody did performed body paint on her, versus her wearing a singlet that was airbrushed. It just gave off the impression that it was actual body paint, and well done creatively. If that was a Russo idea, then I'm fully surprised, only because Russo usually comes up with stuff that ends up looking like shit. But talking was not Tori's strongest point. Her delivery was very monotone. She had a very flat affect to begin with, and she's not the only one. A lot of wrestlers, male or female, struggle with that, and sometimes that's just not their biggest suit, the microphone. She wasn't afforded enough time to better her mic skills, I believe. She could have had some time in developmental, and I don't know how long she was ever in a developmental system. What was it, HWA at the time, before being called up to the main roster, but maybe they could have given her more time than what they did. I don't know. It's just speculation. She also needed some work in the ring, and she wasn't bad there, but it's like they rushed a lot of matches from what you saw in WWF, so it's not like she was given copious amounts of time to hone her craft, as they say. She wasn't afforded enough time to better her mic skills. She needed work in the ring. While she had the basics down pat, suplexes and crossbodies, whatever, and headlocks, I felt that she rushed into a lot of spots that ended looking all clunky and kind of herky-jerky. And in the match she had with Ivory at SummerSlam 99, that's a perfect example. There were spots that looked good, but then for the most part it seemed like she was rushing everything, so it was questionable at best. WWF needed to work with her more to become better, and I think it's their fault sometimes. Like, it's easy for them to say, oh, this person sucks, so they don't have any potential going forward, but the beauty of now, maybe developmental wasn't as strong back then, but the beauty of today is you can always send somebody back to NXT if they don't think they're at the level that they should be at, and give them a second chance. And if the second chance fails, okay, so be it. Maybe they'll be kind and give them a third chance, but that's up to the individual themselves. But yeah, Tori, so she was somebody good, I guess, in a mid-card role. So she made her debut on the December 28th, 1998 episode of Raw. She was cast as a plant in the crowd. A plant is somebody that's, you don't know who the hell they are, and for all you know, they could just be there watching the show. They bought a ticket like you and I did. She apparently was a fan, obsessed with Sable and her career that just was skyrocketing like crazy around this point in time. She was getting ready to do Playboy, especially. So this super fan, whom we don't know yet, she hasn't introduced herself as Tori officially, ran into the ring, and she handed Sable a yellow rose before being whisked away by head of security, Jim Dotson. This big burly man taking her out. Hands her a rose just as a fan. Thank you for letting me come see you tonight, whatever. Sable had just turned heel around then, so it wasn't exactly like Sable was feeling all warm and welcome to her advances, so to speak. But instead, she degraded and humiliated Tori every chance she had. And eventually this led to a match for the Women's Championship at WrestleMania 15. Tori was actually a face. So you would have thought she was a heel and being like a stalker, and she was, but Sable being the cocky and arrogant, it was hard to cheer Sable then because she let all the success go to her head the minute she won that women's title. Sable, of course, retained with help from Nicole Bass from the Howard Stern show, the big power lifter chick. So Tori, around this point, she got the women's title match way too early, and she was still kind of green, I think. So putting her at WrestleMania for a women's title, and this is like a world title, and back then this was all the women had compared to now. They have several different options. But the one world women's belt being defended at WrestleMania was against somebody who was too green, and the other one only got by in her popularity outside of what she knew in the ring. So not the greatest Mania match for the women, I'll say, Sable and Tori at Mania 15. But that notwithstanding, Tori continued to wrestle. She started a feud in the spring of '99 with Jacqueline, and I don't really remember a whole lot about this. Most of those matches, I think, took place either on Shotgun or Heat, maybe not on Raw so much, but I remember there were a couple of women's title matches, like this one Fatal 4-Way match in April of '99 where Sable defended against Jacqueline, Tori, and Ivory, and Nicole Bass took out all the competition before the bell could even sound. So that was a joke and a half. It was just about Sable abusing her power and the fact that she had Nicole Bass to back her up at every point. But yeah, Jackie and Tori, I don't recall like a serious feud building between them. Probably just exchanged some wins and losses and matches on house shows too. Maybe maybe they're alluding to that. It's something I found on Wikipedia, so I'm kind of investigating that as we speak. So there were even some mixed tag matches when Meat jumped into the picture, and Jackie was with Terry Reynolds and Ryan Shamrock, PMS, and Meat, Sean Stasiak had just debuted then. Meat and Jackie took on Test and Tori. Test, I don't know why he was with Tori, because he was already in the midst of the feud between the Union and the corporate ministry. Test was kicked out of the corporation, and the corporation and Ministry of Darkness merged on the pilot episode of SmackDown. Very soon after, and then comes the Union. They form the very next week on Raw. Union versus corporation, that whole shtick. But, it was just weird that Test would be in the lower card feud, and he's already in this kind of upper mid-card feud as it is. So I think Russo might have experimented with diverting wrestlers' attention. Like, they could be involved in two feuds and have separate allegiances, whether they're heel or face. And it got confusing with Chyna. Like in the fall of '99, she's going after the IC title. She's a face feuding with Jarrett, yet she's still the quiet muscle and heel for Triple H. And eventually we know the directions split between Triple H and Chyna. But '99, they did experiment with that, and I think Vince Russo was definitely somebody behind that logic. I'm willing to bet. So perhaps Tori's biggest feud in the WWF was with Ivory over the Women's Championship. And as I said, we're going to talk about Tori. I think should have been given at least, a very quick phantom run with the belt, 1 or 2 weeks, even 24 hours. She seemed like somebody that looked like a champion. You look at a gal like this and you're a wrestling fan, you think, okay, she's got the look and she's got the body, and she certainly has the skills, even if they're not quite up to par. So I certainly wouldn't mind giving this young lady a run with the Women's Championship. I'd be the first to say that. They had creative meetings back then, but I don't think they did. It was just Russo, McMahon, and Bruce Pritchard, for what it's worth. So, yeah, unfortunately that all never happened. So Ivory beat Tori it all started on an episode, oddly enough, of Sunday Night Heat. Let me look this up real quick. Tori Tori had a match on Heat in August of '99 randomly against a lady that had one match in WWF and never returned after that. Let's see, Sunday Night Heat, 8/8/99. You can always look things up. I just didn't have a chance to do it before I recorded, so bear with me 1 second. Okay, here we go. Lexi Fife. Okay, that's who it was. Lexi Fife. I barely remember her, but I guess she wasn't signed to a full-time contract. In any event, Tori defeated Lexi Fife that night. It only took a minute and a half, according to the Pro Wrestling Wiki page. Ivory comes out with like a permanent marker or something or some makeup brush or something with ink on it she comes out to attack Tori and then writes all across her stomach and back. On her stomach, she writes skank, and on her back, she writes slut. And, this was the Attitude Era, so they were pushing the limits with, name calling and not even that, but just, taking cheap shots at everybody in every which way, every significant turn. So, she was dishing it all out, Ivory was. So Tori had to get some revenge of some sort, and this would have been a perfect time to give the belt to Tori, just, have a little comeuppance in some way, shape, or form. But that didn't happen. So they had a rematch on the September 6, 1999 episode of Raw, which was preempted because of the U.S. Open that evening. So instead of 9-11, it was 11-1. I think my dad would not let me stay up for that. He's like, no, you got school tomorrow. Go to bed. He was right. The first ever hardcore women's championship match. They're basically dressed in these overgrown, long, what do you call them? Oversized shirts, summer shirts, I guess, and with just a bra and panties underneath, and they're completely barefoot. Both Ivory and Tori are. And Ivory retained the title predictably and then proceeded to burn Tori with a hot iron. Like they were throwing glass at each other, mirrors. The hot iron was the icing on the cake. Well, opposite speaking here. That's cool icing. Oh my God, I don't know what I just did there, but I was using some antonyms, I guess, instead of synonyms. But that's neither here nor there. So I remember what happened after the match ended and Ivory retained the belt. She took the hot iron and placed it right over Tori's back, like right where I'm putting my hand right now on my back. Oh, burned her. Scorching her back. Ooh, that's gotta hurt like hell. See, it's the price you pay to be a wrestler, especially in those days, man or woman. So yeah, not long after that, Tori just kind of muddled around in the women's division, not doing much. She wasn't a number one contender again after that, I don't think. Tori's last involvement in the women's division on a serious level was at the 1999 Survivor Series. She was on the winning team in the sudden death 8-woman tag match where she teamed with Deborah, Fabulous Moolah, and Mae Young to defeat Ivory, Luna, Terry, and Jacqueline. Now, notice how it's only sudden death, it's one fall. This was only the third time the women had ever been involved in a Survivor Series style match. And sure, the women's title's been defended on the card in the show in years past and years prior, but not in a capacity of a Survivor Series. And the belt's not on the line, mind you, but the women competing in these style matches was very rare for its time. Now, I'm trying to think. So it was 1987 when you had the Jumping Bomb Angels win that Women's Survivor Series match, and then you had 1995 where Aja Kong decimated Alundra Blaze's team. And then 1999, yes, you basically had Tori, Deborah, Moolah, and Mae coming out on top. And it was just a schmoz, that's all it was. And I just remember this one double suplex spot where Luna and Jackie go double suplex Tori, and then I think like Moolah pins Ivory, and that's it. All right, enough said about that. So somehow, somewhere along the lines, Tori became involved romantically with Kane, Glenn Jacobs, the Big Red Machine. Kane was feuding with X-Pac. X-Pac had just betrayed him and joined DX, and he promised him that this DX would be just a side thing and that you and me are tight, bro. No, of course that didn't happen. He low-blowed him. X-Pac kept trying to win over Tori, but to no avail. She kept rejecting his advances. Oh, he's so disgusting. Eventually, a stipulation was created in a match wherein if Kane lost, then Tori would have to spend Christmas and New Year's, 99 going into 2000, with X-Pac. Ooh, we're going to spend Christmas and New Year's with X-Pac going into the new millennium, or with Tori no less. Ooh, how romantic. Inevitably, Kane lost that match. I think it was a title match against Big Show. I don't know how I remember that. And Tori went with X-Pac, per stipulation. Soon, she turned on Kane and then decided to go out and be X-Pac's girlfriend after all. She said that he was a perfect gentleman. This is before she broke up with Kane on screen. This is kayfabe, by the way. She said over the holidays, X-Pac was a perfect gentleman, and he wasn't abusive or anything, and, didn't make her feel uncomfortable in any way. So it's like she'd been planting the seeds for this moment to happen. I remember it was on an episode of SmackDown DX, and in the Big Show somehow, I think Big Show was turning heel with the whole, granted he turns face and heel all the time, Big Show, but he was in the midst of that feud with The Rock where he claimed that Rock got eliminated in the Rumble before me. So Big Show assisted DX in dishing out some punishment to Kane and tying him up in the ring post like this. X-Pac delivers what he called the X-Pac and Tori Christmas story. And it goes a little something like this. And Tori wearing her red red tube top. Instead, she wore a green one when she joined DX. She still had the red one on. She performs the lip lock on X-Pac right in front of Kane, who's tied up. Oh, French kissing. And oh man, that was the icing on the cake right there. The insult, adding insult to injury to one Kane. So Tori officially turned heel and joined D-Generation X. And the feud continues between X-Pac and Kane, which a lot of people felt went too long. I think it was fine for what it was. So she often aided Road Dogg. She dons the green and black and often aided Road Dogg and X-Pac in their tag matches while fending off Kane and Paul Bearer, because now Kane had Paul Bearer in his corner to even out X-Pac and Tori. And then after the Kane and X-Pac feud finally ends, Tori, along with X-Pac and Road Dogg, move on to feud with the Dudley Boys. It all started on an episode of Raw, I think, where Tori put Bubba Ray Dudley through a table, which intensified their rivalry, which hadn't really begun yet, but the seeds were being planted, because all the Dudley Boys were putting all the women through the tables, including Mae Young, and then Trish Stratus and Lita. Finally got to Tori, but it took a while. So what they did was Road Dogg and X-Pac beat up Bubba Ray Dudley and put him on the table. Tori insisted she does a frog splash onto Bubba. So she jumps up and right through the table. And man, that was great to see her get up there and do that. I think she was capable of doing that because she didn't take a whole lot of bumps. Well, she did, but there were times where she didn't really stand out from the group with risk taking. And I'm glad she did, because she was really getting away from the whole wrestling aspect and now moving into the managerial role, which I think kind of killed her career. Because now, by this point, Stephanie McMahon's the women's champion. Tori helped her win it from Jackie. And Tori's basically playing second fiddle to a lady that can't even wrestle to begin with. So I guess I didn't like that aspect at the time. And, I had a crush on Tori. So I thought she was, an attractive young lady, even when I was much younger. But, we all have our childhood crushes. It is what it is. So back to this feud. We go to Judgment Day 2000 in a typical tag team tables match. The Dudleys lose to X-Pac and Road Dogg, and Tori gets involved at every turn. And then that leads us to King of the Ring, where Tori is an actual participant, a handicap table and dumpster match. The dumpsters were brought in by DX, because DX weren't fond of tables, obviously. So what they did on an episode of SmackDown in June of 2000, they tied DX and Edge and Christian, tied up the Dudley Boys inside a dumpster and pushed them off the SmackDown stage, which was quite big, by the way. This is the top, this is the bottom. And yeah, suffered internal injuries, the Dudleys did, I believe, so, or as far as kayfabe would lead us to believe. Now we go to King of the Ring, and yes, Tori is an actual competitor in this match. It's a handicap mixed tag team table dumpster match, whatever you want to call it. Dudleys lose, they're put in dumpsters, but Bubba finds a loophole, or Devon does, and they crawl out somehow. Noticeably, Bubba's wearing shorter boots, and I think there's a story that he couldn't find his regular 3D boots. He has to wear these other work boots that only go midway to the calves, not all the way up. Just a little fun fact, did you know? Tori is finally put through the table. He grabs her, and X-Pac and Road Dogg are incapacitated, and 3 days prior to this, Tori suffered a torn labrum at a house show. I can't remember where it was, so she's going into this match injured. So Bubba protected all the women on these bumps, by the way, especially Mae Young, who by this point was pushing her early 80s. Oh my God, how she even agreed to do it. And when Mae Young took that bump, we're going several months earlier, pardon the story for a second, She made sure to grab Bubba. When Bubba held her, there was a lot of padding. She goes through the table. Bubba's taking most of the bump for May. And then she grabs his thumb and squeezes it to solidify the fact that I'm okay. She's okay. She was one tough old broad, and she certainly survived. And the younger girls could certainly do it, or young enough to be the granddaughter of that woman, by the way. Certainly Tori survived, but that certainly exacerbated the pre-existing torn labrum she suffered like 3 or 4 nights earlier at a house show. So that's the last time we see Tori on TV in the role with D-Generation X. She's injured. DX falls apart. Road Dogg and X-Pac, tensions begin to build between the two. Triple H and Stephanie are doing their own thing. Have Kurt Angle. I'm not going to get into that now, but last time we see Tori in the year 2000, we go to WWF New York. X-Pac, who himself just suffered an injury, was a guest at WWF New York during Monday Night Raw. There was always a special wrestling guest on Raw. X-Pac was the host. Yeah, he was the host. And Tori comes by while he's having his dinner. Her hair is cut short. She's got a bob haircut now. Looked like a Karen for a little while. Karen wasn't even a term we used back then in our common vernacular like we do now. She comes in with sunglasses and a leather jacket on, a purse. Hey, haven't seen you in a long time. Hey, what's good, babe? No, I'm going to stop you right there. Remember King of the Ring in Boston? Bubba Ray Dudley put me through the table and you weren't there to save me? Yeah, that was a great time, right? Well, I've got something to tell you for not coming to visit me in the hospital. Oh. Ow, that hurt actually. But yeah, that's what she did. She slapped him for not coming to visit her in the hospital or taking care of her after, and kind of just dumped her. And so she dumped him, and rightfully so. You suck, X-Pac. That's why X-Pac sucks. I think I figured it out after all these years. No, I'm just being facetious. But yeah, Tori then becomes a trainer on the very first season of Tough Enough, along with Al Snow, Taz, and Jacqueline. And she's basically off TV this whole entire time, but she does get one more small run in the winter of 2001 with Raven, of all people. She was the mysterious ninja girl, the ninja woman, dressed in all black. She looked like, a spy for somebody from a James Bond movie or something, action movie. All black, including a turtleneck, and wears a ski mask. Can't even see her face at all. Probably put her hair in a bun. It was still very short at the time. And for weeks, they've been attacking Crash and Molly Holly and even Hardcore Holly, just helping Raven retain the Hardcore title every chance that she could help him. And she did just that and helped him into his getaway card every turn, and certainly added fuel to the fire as far as the 24/7 rule and who can get to the Hardcore Championship without, this mystery woman involving herself in the equation. So Molly Holly finally, on the March 2001 episode of Sunday Night Heat, Molly Holly finally unmasked this woman, and it's Tori! It's the first time we've seen Tori in like 9 months since King of the Ring 2000. And wow, I was actually glad she made it back to TV, but then they weren't doing anything with her. Come the next night on Raw, the kayfabe explanation is that Raven dismissed Tori. Now everybody knows her identity. He doesn't need her help anymore. She's no good to him. She's damaged goods now that she's been exposed. So she's filming Tough Enough all this time in Stamford, Connecticut. And before long, Tough Enough's over, and Tori is released from her WWF contract, I believe, in October of 2001, never coming back to TV since Tough Enough. And I was sad to see her go, because they could have done more with her, or take her character in an alternate direction, maybe done something with the yoga gimmick. Long since retiring from wrestling, Tori is a yogini. She's a female yoga instructor in Portland, Oregon, owns her own studio, did a shoot interview in 2011 talking about her career. Lo and behold, she was good friends with Chyna, and Chyna shows up to this shoot interview, and they hug, they embrace, and you can find it online. It's on YouTube. That's the first and only time we've heard from Tori in the wrestling community ever since being let go from WWF. So yeah, her wrestling career pretty much didn't last much longer after that. By 2002, she's retired and been retired since then, and she's doing well with the yoga stuff, and I guess she tries to stay away from the pro wrestling thing and doesn't want that to be her identity, so to speak. But somebody I felt really could have been used better, much like a lot of the people I talk about on Superstar Spotlight. And with that said, this has been another great edition of Harry Fling Wrestling. I'm your host, Harry Fling, and until next time, everybody, bye-bye.